Good afternoon. I just wanted to share my screen as well. Um, do I have that ability?
You do indeed.
Okay. Oh, great. Thank you. And just give me 1 second here. All right. Here we go. So, good morning. Pardon me. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. My name is Rosalind Fast, and I want to share with you the world through my eyes. I may jump around, but there's so much to share in such a short time. Many are born with the ability to see, to hear, to smell, to taste, and to touch. However, there are those of us who may have had one of our senses obstructed in one way or another, or even more than one sense that apparently doesn't quite work right. It's truly amazing what those who may not have one or only part of their senses can accomplish. So I want to welcome you to, do you see what I see, or do I see what you see? What do you see anyway? How recreation and leisure pursuits have impacted my life living with aniridia. Imagine for a time not being able to see the world the way you see it. So my story, it's a bit different. I came into the world 3 weeks late and under 6 pounds. I spent my first couple of days in an incubator. And if you saw me, you wouldn't know that by looking at me. At the 3 month doctor appointment, he noticed something about my eyes, and actually so did my mom. So he sent me on to an eye specialist. The specialist informed my parents that he couldn't tell them what I had because I had all my eye parts. My mama told me one of the scariest times for her was when I was so young and had to be put under so they could measure the pressure of my eyes. My story continues. They did monitor my eye condition with at least a once a year eye specialist. I got glasses when I was just about 3 years old, and apparently that's when I actually started to run for the first time. I do remember between grade 2 and grade 3, I had my first pair of photogray or transitional lenses to help with decreasing the glare, and they really did help me. I sat in front of the class from grade 1 to grade 3 and the start of grade 4. But once we moved to the Cariboo region of British Columbia in Canada, I didn't seem to have the same luxury and was seated where there was room. I must say also that I was not so athletically inclined. That was my brother's department. I excelled academically. And yes, whoops, sorry, missed something here. Anyways, I was one of those. I was one of those kids that was always picked last. I was teased for wearing glasses, for being academically inclined and not athletic. I'm just going to go back one slide. And my eyes didn't stop me though, even though I was the last kid picked in the school. My mom always wanted us to be active in at least one activity each year and not just a phys ed class. There was ballet, baton, skating. I was like 2x4s on skates. I even tried downhill skiing, never quite made it past the bunny toe. Swimming and water polo came later once I hit grade 8 or grade 9. We did lots of activities outside of school as well. So when our family moved to the Deep Cove area of North Vancouver, British Columbia, it was my first foray into backyard swimming lessons. I didn't like the instructor at all. I was so scared of the water, but you know, she was the first person in my 4 years of life who told me what color my eyes were. I have never forgotten that, and that is the positive impression I took away from that set of lessons. The following summer, I started another set of swimming lessons in another backyard pool program. I continued with this person for 3 summers. It took me that long to be able to put my head in the water and take my feet off the bottom of the pool at the same time. This equated to finally receiving my pre-beginner's badge. That is the one and only swimming badge I've ever received. I think 2 reasons that I finally passed were my dad's patience helping me, and because we were moving to another city that fall. Now, can one question change the course of one's life? I definitely think so. I want to fast forward to a summer 5 years later. I was 13 in the summer between grade 8 And grade 9, my dad was helping with the startup of the town's swim club. He took my brother along, who was younger and much more athletic. I wondered why wasn't I allowed to go? So I asked, why wasn't I allowed to go to the swim practice? That question changed my life in more ways than one. My dad did take me along that day with my brother. Because our town didn't have a pool yet, we went off for the swim practice in someone's private pool, a small rectangular house pool. I couldn't swim even the width without being thoroughly winded. So when I learned I had aniridia, as I said before, I didn't really know anything. It was one fall day after graduating from university. I headed to the local government agent's office to write my test for my learners. I filled out the forms and then proceeded to get the eye test. The next part was, which X stands out? To me, I could not see any X standing out. The clerk proceeded to tell me I was blind in my left eye, and told me I had to get the medical form filled out by my doctor. I left there and I walked around Kamloops, BC for 45 minutes crying. I so wanted my license, as I had heard I would need a class 4 license to work in recreation. So the appointment, I went to the appointment. This is actually the same eye specialist I saw when I was a baby. So I went, and at the beginning I said, would I be able to get my license? And he said, I don't know. I asked that same question halfway through, got the same answer. At the end of the appointment, he said that he wasn't sure, but thought if I got my license, there might be a restriction for driving during the day. And I said, but I see better at night. And his answer to me was, it's the bright lights. I took the form he had filled out and I left his office. And he said, or the paper said, I had congenital aniridia and congenital cataracts. I finally had an answer, always knowing there was something not quite right with my eyes, but not knowing what. I called my parents to tell them the news, and I had to spell it out to them. None of us had ever heard the word aniridia. I took the form back to the government agent's office and handed it in. Lo and behold, it was the same clerk. I'm happy to say about 9 months later, no, I did not give birth, but rather I had my new driver's license with under 21 hours of driving and endured the wrath of the city's hardest examiner. Now I knew, and looking back, I can understand why every time I threw my baton up, I rarely caught it. Why I was scared on the ski hill, not lots of depth perception and big time glare going down the hill. Even skating, I had troubles too. As I said, it was like 2x4s on skates. Hiking in school, I was always the last and was often scared going downhill. And even how long it took me to be coordinated in swimming, or the fear of learning how to dive off the side of the pool. So in my case, 5 years prior to my cataract surgery, I had mostly stopped reading books. I had to use a cheap magnifying glass for the necessary reading. And like others, probably, I was silently, and not sometimes so silently, very frustrated and scared. Now, for those of you that are able to see this, after my cataract surgeries, this is the best way I could describe it. I could see stuff before my cataract surgery, and then after, everything just stood out to me, like my husband's whiskers as well. How I compensated in school was, I didn't even think it was compensating actually, but I had to figure it out on my own. I would look at the context of a sentence on a blackboard, and yes, I'm probably dating myself. But oftentimes if someone was sitting near me, I would ask them what the words were, but they would just turn around and tell me, go get your eyes fixed and get new glasses. And I'm like, oh, really? So what I would do is I would puzzle out the word, I would puzzle out the sentence, I'd use my memory to remember what the teacher said, and then I would leave something blank, reread it after, and finally figure out what the word was. I spent an awful lot of time listening, as I said, an excellent memory, and I did the best that I could, even though some might not think it was very good. And this is something I take from my swimming background, and I bring it into my everyday life. My lifeguard analogy comes from obviously being a lifeguard. As a lifeguard, when the whistle blows, you know that you are, you're going to have someone backing you up, or you're going to be backing somebody up. But if you have a Bronze Cross here in Canada, it's a very different mentality. You have to make sure you're looking after yourself first, because you do not want to have two people in distress. And this lifeguard analogy helps me in everyday life, as I remember my emotional gas tank is really important, and I need to keep that full or have a reserve at all times. And there's a huge long list of what I've learned from Anna Ridian swimming. And I just want to point to one thing at the bottom is I actually did get a degree, a Bachelor of Education in physical education, with a major in physical education. I was so excited to be able to get a D in track and field. I had never run hurdles in my life, but I got that D, I passed, and I never had it, to take it again. And if anybody else wants to know any of the other benefits, I'm more than willing to share. I'm just watching the time. So as we conclude, this is a poem to leave you with, one of my favorite poems that I've had in my memory for years. There's no thrill in easy sailing when the skies are clear and blue. There's no joy in merely doing things which anyone can do. But there is some satisfaction, which is mighty sweet to take, when you reach a destination that you thought you'd never make. If there's any questions or comments, by all means, you can ask me. And whether a child or adult has aniridia, they have so much to bring to the table. Their experiences, their likes and dislikes, their abilities to create community, and to be proud of what they can do with their talents and strengths. Please be passionate in your field as a professional, looking at the person with aniridia as a whole person. As a person with aniridia, continue to shine and advocate for yourselves. As parents, continue to educate for your family and continue to learn. But remember, your kids are kids. I have had the opportunity to meet some incredible people on my journey towards improved vision. From the NUCA chiropractor, the surgeon who did my second surgery in 13 minutes, the massage therapist and the behavioral optometrist, to who I have become today, standing in front of you, someone who has gained so much more than just sight, but a more holistic understanding of myself and others, and the opportunities that are available for the taking for each one of us.
Thanks, Rosalind. That was a really great talk. I'm going to invite anybody who wants to ask a question to ask you some questions now. I'm just checking the chat to see if we have any questions.
I'll
do.
ask a question if
yes,
I may.
Go ahead.
Rosalind, it's incredible that you waited so long before having a name for what was what the matter was. Were there positives to that as well as, well, obvious negatives? But did it? I don't know. Presumably your parents hadn't really tried to give it a label before, or at least, or had just gone by what they were told, really. But were there any positives to not knowing for so long?
I think so, because I've talked to my mom. Like, my parents were my biggest cheerleaders. Unfortunately, my dad passed away about 4 years ago, and he was pretty instrumental in teaching me how to swim and do a whole pile of other things. But the thing that my mom has said, and she said, I think it's probably good that we didn't know in a lot of ways, because you weren't treated any differently than anybody else. Like, as I said, I was the kid that was, I wasn't looked upon favorably from an athletic perspective in school and stuff, but it allowed me to still try things, and I had to struggle, but I was still good in other things. Like, I was really good at, academically, I was really good. And the funny thing is that I was also in 4-H, and I had a sewing machine, so I had to sew. So everybody knows what a sewing machine looks like. Everybody knows the size of a needle. So here I am trying to thread a needle, and I'm wondering why I've always had troubles with that. But I was able to get the needles threaded, or my mom would help me, and still be able to showcase great work. So I think that's like probably the biggest positive. And, my brother knew nothing different. I knew nothing different. My parents knew nothing different, but my parents did take me to the ophthalmologist, like I said, every year. And one ophthalmologist actually got mad at my mom when she said something about, she can't see what I see or something like that. I said, don't expect her to see what you see. Like, he didn't get mad at her, but he's like, get a handle on this. This kid has something different, and she's not going to see what you see. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you very much, Rosalind and
I
Katie. Sorry,
have a
Katie, carry on.
question, I can have a question for Rosalind.
Yeah, carry on, Katie.
We often get asked, I think often parents ask what might be the best sports for people with aniridia. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
You know what? I have talked to so many people, and having joined Facebook, I found parents, with kids with aniridia. And every child, just remember that the child is a child first, or kid, whatever you want to say. And they have aniridia second. Yes, it might be debilitating for their sight, but I think each kid has their own whatever. Like for me, soccer was just not it. I couldn't figure that out at all. I could never play a soccer, or sorry, your guys' football. But I think, I think getting involved in an individual sport, but also being involved in a team sport really helps. For me, one of the best sports I ever played was water polo. So I think you can gain so much from an individual sport and from a team sport. You might be the last one picked in a team sport, but you're still going to learn a lot. Like in water polo, I've learned how to anticipate things. And that still comes today. Like my husband had a cycling accident a long time ago. So I still have to anticipate that he's going to be this or he's going to be that, or I have to kind of anticipate and adapt and modify. So I think it's really up to the child